Technology Association to today's ELTA Live webcast. I really appreciate that you joined us today. I know that we have strong competition in Europe from primetime TV, in the US from a bunch of Zoom virtual happy hours. So thank you that you choose us instead of The Bachelor. And you did make the right choice because we are going to talk today about cybersecurity. This is probably the topic most neglected by lawyers, but it is very important. So if you imagine we are for a couple of months already under attack from a natural virus with huge implications and business continuity, hardly managed to get everybody working from home and continuing to deliver our services. So we don't need on top of it an attack from a cyber or a computer virus. So let's all become more diligent, and ELTA decided that's why ELTA decided to pick the topic of cybersecurity for law firms, for legal tech companies, and so on in those hard times when we have to be double vigilant to not become a victim of cyber attacks and so on. So we invited Alexander Sverdlov, the founder and CEO of Untitled Security, and a known expert in IT security, and literally the guy who wrote the book on IT security for lawyers. It's called Protecting Law Firms from Hacking Attacks. All right, and you can order it from the ABA website. So welcome, Alexander, and thank you for taking your time to educate us on cybersecurity. That's very important. It's important for me and should be important for everybody, not only lawyers, for everybody, because it has huge implications.
Just one more comment. First of all, thank you all for being here. As Holger said, there is a lot of competition for webinar attention today. Second, one comment on the book is not available on the ABA website. The one available on the ABA website is 500 pages of legal advice. It's not really practical. Mine is the only practically applicable book that you can actually use. It's 220 pages of advice. You can get it from page 1 to the last page. Just apply. Now, this book will be given to all of you who stay until the end of the webinar. There will be a link.
Now we have it. One more incentive to stay until the end.
Yeah, so stay until the end, because we'll be discussing a lot of practical solutions and a lot of practical applicable advice. A lot of it will be in the book, but we cannot cover everything. My intention for today is to give you as much as possible. So if you take notes or if you watch the video later, you'll be able to, if you actually take notes or implement everything that I suggest, you will get your firm's defenses to a level much higher than it is today, all for free. Most of my advice doesn't cost any money to implement. It just takes some work.
Oh, I wouldn't say that too loudly. Lawyers still have money. Okay, just before we start, some kind of housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded and it will be up in the next couple of days on ELTA's YouTube channel at youtube.com/ELTA2016. So you can revisit it, or if you didn't make it to the live version, you can watch it. And when you watch it, you can subscribe to the channel, so you will be alerted about new ELTA webinars coming up on the YouTube channel of ELTA. So we will be talking Alexander will be talking to you for about an hour. We decided to leave after every question, so I will ask him a couple of questions, but we don't know what you would like to hear about cybersecurity. So Alexander will leave a time for questions, which might steer us in the right direction, because maybe you have some totally different ideas about cybersecurity and how to implement it, and then we will steer it in the direction, because it's a webcast for you, not for us. So there will be a short pause after every question, and you can raise your hand or raise your or there's some, as Julia said before, there were some technical implementations in Zoom to make you visible that you want to ask a question, and she will open up your mics and you can ask directly. Or if you come into any technical difficulties, you can use the chat. Julia will monitor it, and she probably knows Zoom better than the founders of Zoom, because she has done 500 webinars already last week, I guess.
Probably, yeah. So, and everybody can unmute his or her phone, microphone himself or herself.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That's even better.
That's even better. Okay.
And feel free to interrupt me. I won't forget cybersecurity if you interrupt me. So feel free to interrupt if you have something really urgent that you don't want to forget. And anyway, feel free to interrupt. That's what I wanted to say.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start with a short introduction. Alexander, who are you? What's your background and experience in IT security? And for God's sake, why did you choose to torture lawyers with cybersecurity?
Right, some background. Well, I've been in cybersecurity since teenager, probably, and I worked in very large companies since young age, since I was 20. I worked in Hewlett-Packard. My headphones decided to turn off. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right.
Now we can hear you.
Cool. So I worked in Hewlett-Packard many years ago, and then I worked as a security officer in a bank. I worked as a part of cyber investigations for investigating cybercrime in Dubai. Then I worked in Microsoft's security team, where I traveled the world, mostly Middle East and Asia, because that's where my management thought the most money will be. So I traveled the world in Microsoft cybersecurity team, building defenses for some of the largest banks in the world, some of the government organizations in the Middle East as well. So then I consulted as a private consultant, the United Arab Emirates, Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation. And then I decided to open my own firm, my own company, consulting law firms and legal tech startups. That's my focus. Why I decided to torture lawyers? Because lawyers are very conservative and traditional when adopting technology, and even legal tech startups are often behind when it comes to cybersecurity, but law firms especially are very conservative. Until a few months ago, many law firms that I talked with said, we don't allow work from home. It's safe. It's not safe to work from home. It's much safer in the corporate environment, which is such an imaginary misconception, because working from home safely can be done. Working with cloud services can be done, and it's much safer than on-premise, than your own internal IT. Doesn't matter how good your internal IT you think it is, it can never be as secure as Microsoft's cloud or Google's cloud. You can never have as many security engineers or software engineers. And your outsource, most likely, most firms outsource their IT somewhere. That outsourcing company is most likely already compromised. I mean, statistically speaking, that's most likely. And they building your security just because it's in the contract for managing your IT. There is a point in the contract that they will manage cybersecurity as well. Doesn't mean that it's actually possible, because if you're very lucky, they will have sent their team on a 1 week cybersecurity training, if you're extremely lucky. In most times, their employees get a few hours of security awareness training, and then you depend on them for cybersecurity. And that's uncomparable. If you have the choice, right? If you have the choice to choose Office 365 or your own internal documents storage, choose Office 365. But with one condition, Office 365 has 280 security settings by default. Most of them are turned off. So just going to the cloud is not a solution. It's not a magic pill. Going to Google's cloud, I mean, I'm not advertising Microsoft's Office 365 because it works for them. I just know that it's very usable. If you choose Google, or if you choose Amazon, or if you choose Microsoft, it doesn't matter which big cloud solution provider you choose. I know there are German ones with German data stored in Germany. You know, some people prefer that. Doesn't matter which provider you choose. Remember that choosing one doesn't mean that you're automatically safe. You still have to configure. Like Amazon's security manual is a few hundred pages. It's not secure by default. Office 365 doesn't have a manual, but their help system is hundreds and hundreds of, probably thousands of pages. And as I mentioned, 280 security settings in Office 365 alone. Now, when you get Office 365, you have to remember that you also get automatically, if you're under a business account, you also have Azure, and people forget about it. You can actually log into the Azure portal with an Office 365 admin account, and turns out that Azure also has hundreds of security settings. And even if you've secured your Office 365, you have to secure your Azure environment. It's a big challenge to go to the cloud, but still your own premise, your local internal IT is being safe is a myth. And if possible, I'll just share my computer screen to illustrate these points, because I want to share a couple of slides. Right, sharing. You should be able to see my screen. So the default view, view in a company about their internal IT is what you see on the screen. Is a fortress, right? Our internal IT is a fortress, and not just law firms, even software development companies in the legal tech industry. They believe that their internal IT built by their internal team is a fortress. It has a wall, right? It has, the wall is the firewall, as you see on the screen, and everything inside is protected. That's not the case for the past 10 years. For the past 10 years, this is the case. So this is a picture I ordered from an abstract artist, and I ordered it many years ago, but I still use it to this day. So I ordered the artist to describe the modern cyber fortress. The modern cyber fortress doesn't have walls, and it didn't have walls for the past 10 years. Firewalls are bypassed by hackers like cutting with a hot knife through butter. It's like it's not even there. Why? I'll share you once again something, just a second. So this is the world's biggest data breaches statistics. And the world's biggest data breaches, all of those companies you see, some of them have lost, Equifax lost 143 million records. Marriott lost 383 million records. All of them had a firewall. All of them had an internal IT, and all of them had an antivirus. So please remember this: antivirus, firewall, internal IT team didn't save any of those large companies. What could have saved them are some architectural practices, cybersecurity architecture practices that, because of their team were overworked. DOA, I don't know if many of you remember, DOA Piper had a breach, and many other law firms had a breach that became public. So DOA Piper's breach, they could have done one simple configuration change on their computers, totally free of charge, just a setting in Windows that could have prevented all of their offices worldwide being shut down. One simple configuration change. And I'll be showing you that change today. But back to the cyber fortress and the difference between the old concept that I was showing you. The cyber fortress, the important point is that every endpoint, like those little cubes are endpoint, like computers, the big ones are servers. Every endpoint has to be protected as if it is a fortress. So your computer, your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone, this is the entry point for the hacker. It's not protected by a firewall just because you are inside the corporate network. Because when you browse with your phone, when you receive a link on WhatsApp, on SMS, in an email, when you click on that link, you immediately bypass the firewall, and the firewall is not even there from the hacker's perspective. So defend the endpoint. That is priority number one for many years already. It's just that IT departments have been living because they probably graduated university many years ago. They probably took a certification many years ago. They probably still live in this misconception that a firewall, an internal IT protects them. It's not the case. So a little bit of statistics. In general, when a company is attacked, or when a company is on the map of hackers, and when I'm saying on the map of hackers, it's not some teenager living in their mother's basement. Hackers today have hacking organizations up to 1,000 people strong, and those 1,000 employees, paid employees, and they have KPIs, they have project managers, they go to work every day doing cybercrime. They have call centers, they have all kinds of departments, criminal departments. And when they get an order to get into a company, and why law firms are targeted, because when there are two sides of a deal, for example, it's much easier to compromise the law firm handling that deal than to compromise a multi-billion corporation. I'll give you an example. One of the companies I worked with in Dubai, there were 3,000 employees. They had almost 100 people doing cybersecurity alone. Who is easier to compromise? A company with 100 cybersecurity engineers, or a law firm with 0 cybersecurity engineers? If they're lucky, the law firm has a chief information security officer. So when a hacking team, there are more than 270 organized crime groups, cyber crime groups, 270 organized that we know of. When they get an order to hack somewhere, they spend 4 weeks in preparation, on average. They might spend a day if it's too easy. They might spend a year if it's worth it. They might spend a year in preparation. They check all the social media profiles. They check the website for specific language. They check documents that you have uploaded. They might even find copies of emails somewhere with a signature. They might even send an email to get a reply to get the signature. Then they step into the attack phase. And the attack phase, I'll just zoom. Wait, what happened? Let me just stop my screen share. Something happened with my presentation. Anyway, I'm opening it again. Give me a second. That's the problem with live presentation.
Don't worry.
Happens.
Fine.
Mm-hmm. So I'll just continue while it's opening. So the attack phase continues for about 2 weeks, and then once a breach happens, it takes. Let me start my screen sharing again. All right.
You probably been hacked.
Yeah. Once you've been hacked, imagine they compromise the computer of the least significant employee in the law firm, like, I don't know, the secretary, or if your security guard has access to the network, they might compromise that person because they're the most gullible in the network. That person they compromise first usually has 0 rights, has 0 confidential information on their computer. But from that entry point to full control over the whole network, it usually takes them 1 day. And I've seen, as part of my work in Microsoft, I've seen some attacks that take 5 minutes from initial breach to full control over the whole network. 5 minutes. Then they stay undetected in the network for 4 months, up to never. So on average, it's 4 months. In practice, in many cases, they're never detected. They come in the network, they do whatever they want to do. They might leave, they might not leave. How will you know? If they don't let you know that they hacked you, how will you know that they're inside? Are you going to rely on an antivirus, which is bypassable by teenagers? Are you going to rely on a firewall, which is easy to bypass? So usually it takes between 4 months to years until they're detected. Usually law firms are informed about the breach in their network by third parties, by someone else. You start sending emails from a compromised mailbox asking for money from your colleagues. Your colleagues will notify, or your partners in another company will notify you you're sending us suspicious emails. Then you will know you're hacked. Otherwise, it's highly unlikely. From detection to cleanup, it may take a year. Because how will the IT team know where the hackers have hidden a backdoor? They have to wipe everything out. They have to reinstall all computers, all servers, restore the information from backup. And when they restore everything, they might restore it to a state which is still vulnerable, and the hackers come in right away, immediately. So it's a challenging situation. It's a truly challenging situation. The people attacking law firms have decades of experience. The people defending law firms, mostly IT teams, they have weeks of, if you're lucky, a week of training in defense, and that's very unproductive. So today, I'm going to give you some really actionable advice to increase your defenses and to make it much harder for hackers to compromise your computers, the computers in your law firms. And some of the settings that I will share could have prevented the breach at DOA Piper and many other companies. And it's literally...
Alexander, the sound all sounds very gloomy to me, because if frankly, if a company or a law firm like DLA Piper gets compromised, if Marriott with all its resources, and probably they have dozens of, if not hundreds of IT security guys, and a lot of it outsourced and so on, if they get hacked, compromised, then all we can do as a small law firm, a solo practitioner, is roll over and die and say, okay, it's useless. So how do I check whether I've been compromised? You said that usually a law firm gets the first signal from outside. If somebody, so you're sending stupid emails asking us for money or for information you already have, and so on. And what are the first steps in the event that I've been compromised? What can I do to get out of that situation? Apart of from rolling over and dying.
Your question really had two parts. One of the questions that you asked, you didn't ask it with voice, but you asked it with meaning. So you mentioned that large firms have been hacked. We have no defense. It's the opposite. A small firm can apply some very sound security guidelines, and it can be protected. Like my security company, it's a security company, but I'm a solopreneur. I manage everything myself. I get attempts to hack me every day. I get phishing messages, attacks on my website every day. I'm not hacked. I mean, I know, first of all, I know a few ways to check. Like you asked, can it be checked? Second, there are some very sound practices that IT personnel doesn't know. It's not in their job to know. It's not in their job description. It's not in their training. They don't know about it, but it's simple to implement. So there are ways to get healthy. There are a lot of unhealthy people. There are a lot of unhealthy because they smoke, they drink, they eat unhealthy. The majority of people probably are unhealthy. That doesn't mean that we have to be unhealthy. That doesn't mean that we cannot be healthy. The same is with security. There are a lot of firms that get breached. A lot of firms have a lot of resources. Yes, DLA Piper had a lot of resources, but probably their resources either were overworked or missed some security training because they got hacked in a very simple way. It didn't take an advanced attack to go into DLA Piper. It took something simple, really simple. Okay. So if it takes something simple to hack into a company like that, then some simple things can be applied to prevent such a breach. Now, how can we check if we are hacked? There are many ways. If your environment is a Windows environment and your computers are running on the Windows operating system, or if your server environment is running on Active Directory and you have Active Directory infrastructure in your office, there is a Microsoft tool called Advanced Threat Analytics. It's an expensive tool. Its deployment is expensive, but it has a free trial. Run this tool, Advanced Threat Analytics. Your IT team should run this tool on their servers, and it really shows if you've been breached or not. First. Second, it shows a lot of vulnerabilities right away. That's for Active Directory. Maybe you're running in a cloud. Maybe you're a small firm, you don't have Active Directory. This is a technical term now. We're going into very technical details. But you can go to a website called breachaware.com and enter your company's domain name. See, if there are any entries for your domain name, then it's likely that some of the passwords of your employees have leaked. Now, breachaware, if you're on breachaware, doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you are hacked. It means that some of your employees have used their company email account somewhere and that site was hacked. That's most likely. However, people reuse passwords. And if they used on onlineshopping.com their corporate account and their password, the hacker can take this password and reuse it in your infrastructure. And if the person is a regular human being, most likely their password is slightly different, but it's very similar in your corporate environment. So use breachaware to check, use Advanced Threat Analytics free trial to check. There are many other ways to check if you've been hacked. There are so-called indicators of compromise, but usually indicators of compromise are being found by threat hunters. And threat hunters are usually not on staff in IT outsourcing companies. Usually they're not present on staff in law firms. Threat hunting is a skill natural to cybersecurity experts. So threat hunting is a process where someone goes into your network and starts searching for indicators of compromise. And there are hundreds of thousands of types of them. Those I'm not going to discuss them. But yeah, Holger, do you have any other questions? Because I can go through all kinds of slides and go into all kinds of advice. But
what are the first steps is to analyze whether you have been compromised with threat analytics and looking up whether some of your corporate email is assembled on those sites that collect them. But then you realize, okay, there's a corporate email on those websites, and the probability is high that you have been compromised somehow. What can you do? What's the next step, the second or the third step? Is there anything, some kind of checklist you can use? What to do with your system?
Yeah, I want to mention one more thing, right? Infection and being hacked is not always as scary as it sounds. Now, we as human beings, we get in touch with bacteria and viruses every time we touch anything, literally. The same is in the cyber world. Our computers, just by browsing the web, just by opening any news website, can get in touch. They can touch the malicious code. I'll give you an example. Forbes.com was hacked several years ago. Forbes is visited by many people. So if Forbes got hacked, everyone who visited Forbes might have been hacked. Now, where is the guarantee that the news website you browsed yesterday wasn't hacked yesterday? Or when a news website is displaying advertisements, one of the advertisement networks was hacked, and instead of ads, it's sending malicious code to that news website. So the news website wasn't hacked, but it's displaying malicious ads, which in turn hack the visitors of this news website. So our computers touch malicious code on a regular basis. So, and many times we might get infected and our immune system, which is the defense systems on our computers, like antivirus and all kinds of similar stuff, they might wipe it out without us even noticing. Now, if there is a significant breach, again, if your email is on breachaware.com, it doesn't mean that your company was hacked. It means that your employees' credentials are leaked. It's different. If you suspect that you've been hacked, what to do? You have to get expert advice. And there are hundreds of security companies out there. I'm not going to tell you, come to me. I'll be happy if you come to me as well. But you can address any of them and tell them that there is a process. Just as with medicine, there is a process, there is a triage process to perform when there is a suspicion of a hack. And there are specific steps to perform to wipe out the attackers from the network and secure it. It's going to be too technical to go into them. Like breach recovery, you can write 10 books on breach recovery. I just want to focus today on breach prevention, because this is the 80-20, the Pareto rule. You do 20% of the effort in prevention and you get 80% of the benefit to prevent the cyber attack. When a cyber attack happens, there is a whole lot of effort in remediating it. And this is, I don't want to make it a topic of our discussion today. So I want to focus today on things you can do today to prevent.
Okay.
So one of the most important prevention steps you can do today in managing access control to your accounts is to stop reusing passwords. Stop using the same password everywhere. Stop using the same password for your Gmail account and for your corporate account, for your online banking. Stop changing the password slightly for everything. A necessity today is to have a different complex password everywhere. If your password repeats in 2 different places, one of them gets hacked, the other gets hacked automatically, because now the hacker knows your password and they can use it on the other place, right? So if your webmail gets hacked, or your personal email gets hacked, and the password becomes known, if you use the same password on your corporate document management system, surprise, your law firm is hacked. So never use the same password in the same place. Never use the same password on 2 or more places. For that, I recommend using a password manager. So you see on my screen a program called KeyPass, KEE-Pass. It's free, it's open source. You can download it today to your Windows or Mac, doesn't matter. Both of them support KeyPass. And you see on my screen that there are hundreds of entries here. And in my password manager, I'm not going to open it now, but in my password manager, I have hundreds upon hundreds of entries. The thing with the password manager is when you create an entry for your document management system, for example, because you have a password for a DMS in your law firm, it allows you to generate the password automatically. You don't have to remember it anymore. So at first it seems like a complex change, but in reality, it's much easier because now you let go of your passwords. You don't have to remember them anymore. You only have to remember a really good password to protect the password database, and everything else the password management program takes care for you. You can use it in the cloud. You can use all kinds of cloud password managers, LastPass, 1Password, and there are dozens of them. I prefer using this one because it's offline. Now, it's really important. This is like the basics. Why I'm saying there are some critical things that big firms don't do them. In very big companies, people still don't use password managers. People still use password like P at password 123 with an @ sign. Why this is a very big security, it's a critical security issue because it complies with security requirements. It has a capital letter, it has a symbol, it has a number, but it's password essentially. And many people are using it. It's extremely easy to guess it, even though it complies with complexity requirements. So forget about those kind of passwords, as you see on my screen. Start using a password manager. Critically important. Now, I promised to cover safe work from home on this webinar. Safe work from home is very tied into the misconception that working from the corporate environment is more secure and working from home is less secure. Now, there is some truth to that, like probably 10% is true. Yeah, in the corporate environment, we have automatic updates, we have some level of security monitoring, we have some level of isolation, we probably have a more secure wireless access point, wireless network than we have at home, probably, hopefully, but the difference is not that large. The difference in safe work from home and working from the corporate network, the common denominator is your endpoint. Your computer has to be protected the same way in the corporate network and at home. The same defenses have to be applied to the same computer. So an additional thing, you probably already use a VPN. Otherwise, you couldn't connect to your corporate network from home. One funny fact I will share with you. Yesterday, a couple of days ago, I had a call from a firm. Their VPN server was hacked. So they had a VPN. Because they had a VPN, they were hacked. Because this VPN, it was a commercial VPN. The company had a 0-day vulnerability. 0-day means it's known to the hackers, but it's not known to the security company or a VPN vendor. The hackers compromised hundreds, maybe thousands of those devices that this company sold, VPN servers. And all of the customers of this company who bought VPN from that security company got hacked because they had a VPN. So it puts us in a very difficult situation. When VPN servers can get hacked, how do you protect against that? Immune system. You have to build an immune system in your company. And this immune system should detect that someone is in the network. That is a high priority. You have to have some way of knowing that someone is moving around between computers or from servers to network devices. However, if we forget about that because it's very technical, going back to the things that you can do today, yeah, VPN is a must. If you can influence your IT company that handles IT for your law firm, if you can influence your internal IT department to migrate, to upgrade to zero trust networks, to zero trust networking, this is the next level. It's being used since 2014, so 6 years already. Zero trust networks are out there. Google is using it. Microsoft is using zero trust networks. Microsoft dropped VPN usage in favor of zero trust networks years ago. Google dropped VPN usage in favor of zero trust networks. If those large companies can do it, you can do it as well. Zero trust networks is not a rocket science. It can be implemented in a small company. I have implemented it for some of my clients. It's actually not that difficult. VPN, if you work on your own, if you're a solopreneur like me, or if you're a lawyer working solo, then you don't have a VPN from your company. You have to rely on your own. You have to buy a VPN service. So do some research. I recommend Proton VPN. I recommend AirVPN and private internet access. Those three providers are known for their security, are known for protecting customer data. You don't want to randomly select a VPN provider for yourself because some VPN providers sell your data like it's hotcakes on the market. They make a lot of money by selling customer data, so be careful with that. And I'll talk about some additional things to do on your computer when you work from home. First, you have to encrypt it. Your home is less protected than your office. People can enter your home. You can go outside to a coffee shop. You can forget your computer. It has to be encrypted. It's just a must. Fully encrypted. All the USB devices that you use, they have to be encrypted as well. Bitwalker is free. You don't have to buy expensive encryption solutions. Bitwalker is absolutely free. It's built into Windows. You can encrypt USB drives with Mac OS tools, which are free again. And I'll talk a little bit more later about protecting your computer. But since we don't have much time, I want to cover more topics. So policies and procedures for cybersecurity sounds like having them sounds like bureaucracy. It's not actually bureaucracy if you do them right. They have to be living, breathing documents. When it comes to policies and procedures, just copy the structure from a company like Sans. They provide free templates. Copy the structure and then modify them to fit your firm. Modify them to fit your law firm or your legal tech startups, to fit your culture, to fit your IT infrastructure, but don't invent them on your own. I mean, it's gonna be, you're gonna miss important points if you try to invent the policies and procedure on your own. Now, when it comes to mitigating cyber attacks, mitigating, I'll just zoom in here. No, actually, I think I'll open my mind map. So when it comes to attack mitigation, right, these are all the things that you need to do to protect your company. When it comes to attack mitigation, I'll just zoom in here. You have to realize that malware infections, viruses, computer viruses are what's on people's minds when it comes to security. And we have an antivirus, we're safe. No, you're not safe. There are all kinds of hacking attacks out there which don't involve malware at all. And the major point, the major thing that you need to take care of is credential theft. And credential theft, not just of employees, but credential theft when it comes to admins, the people who administer your cloud infrastructure, the people who administer your document management system, your computers, the people who administer Office 365, Azure, or Google's cloud. Those administrative credentials, if a hacker steals one password to those accounts, game over. So credential theft is priority number one. When it comes to attack mitigation, you can mitigate all kinds of attacks. There are 17 types of attacks. Credential theft should be on your top priority. Pareto's rule, 80-20, 80% of the benefit comes from protecting credentials. That's priority number one. What you should do is, I'll mention later, two-factor authentication is the minimum. I'll mention later some advice. Here is some technical advice. So take notes now, because it's highly beneficial to have a program such as Zero Patch. Now, Zero Patch is free for personal use. So on your Windows computer, install Zero Patch. Install the uBlock Origin extension on your browser. Why? Because it blocks all kinds of malicious advertisement. It blocks advertisement, but it blocks all kinds of malicious stuff when you browse the internet. And browsing is a huge infection vector. On your Windows machine, remove your admin rights. On your Mac OS, remove your admin rights. Don't work every day, your everyday emailing and browsing with admin rights. That's a big no-no. Of course, never use pirated software, because pirated software, the hackers who crack software, they have to eat and they install backdoors. Now, one little program that I want to show you is called Hardened Tools. Hardened Tools protects your computer against all kinds of attacks. If DLA Piper had run Hardened Tools on all of their machines, they would not have to shut down all of their offices. And also they had to disable SMB version 1, of course. But if they didn't disable SMB version 1, but they had run this free tool and enabled all the settings here, they would have been safe. So Hardened Tools is free to run. It probably should be run by your system admin, because your system admin knows how IT works. But if you work on your own, run Hardened Tools on your own, enable all the settings except PowerShell and CMD. There is a reason for that, and you'll be safe. Other things you can do today, cybersecurity awareness. Cybersecurity awareness is critical, and you should provide cybersecurity awareness training to every single employee in your law firm or your legal tech startup. There are two things you can do. You can buy it. I personally recommend a commercial solution provider known as Known Before. It's run by the most famous hacker in the world. His name is Kevin Mitnick. But the US Defense Information Systems Agency has a free tool called, This is Cyber Challenge. So Google it, right? Google This is Cyber Challenge. It's free. It's 1 hour. Give it to all your team. And you'll be fine. In my opinion, it's one of the best security trainings out there. It provides a ton of value, totally for free. What else? You have to defend.
Alexander, how often do you have to repeat that? Because, you already mentioned that IT security specialists have already identified that the weakest link is the user, and you can endlessly talk to them. Don't open phishing emails. Don't install any dubious applications you don't know the origin of, and so on. But they do it again and again and again. So is there some schedule? Say every second week you have to remind them not to do this, not to do that.
So yeah, security awareness, as with any awareness, if you deliver it once, people become dull. They forget, and it goes out of their memory, and their level of alertness falls 1 week after the training. You're correct. However, cybersecurity awareness is not about the training that you deliver. Cybersecurity awareness is a practice that needs to be built in the company, and it's also a culture. So it's a good idea to run simulations, to send fake phishing messages from time to time, so people would fall for them. And once they fall for them, they'd be ashamed and they'll be more alert next time. So simulations are critically important. Tests, simulations, and it should be repeated at least once every 6 months. Now, security awareness companies, they provide all kinds of posters, they provide all kinds of curious, interesting training from time to time, but you have to simulate. And I want to show you 2 emails that I get them every day, because as a security company, I get phishing messages every day. Like, it can say like OneDrive document for you, or it can say something like there is a contact shared a file with you, and it was an invoice, and it shows an icon of a document, and you have to click it, or it's an attachment HTML. And it leads you to a page like this one, and then you click preview, and it asks you, and I'll click it because my computer is secure, but it asks you to enter a password, of course, and of course it will be prepared with my username, and it will look official, and many people fall for that. You have to simulate it. You have to do it first, because before someone else does it for you. So you create this document, you create this fake link, and you send it to your employees, and then see how many click on it and how many enter the password. Statistically, 40% enter the password and more than 40% click. This is just statistics. This is a pretty high success rate for a hacker. If you have 100 employees, 40 of them will share their password. That's a high success rate. If the email is written in a convincing way, of course. Like, if, for example, I'll give ELTA as an example. If ELTA receives phishing messages by advanced hackers, it will be something like a lawyer asking to review a document, or a partner asking to host a conference, or something like that. Something relevant. Hackers prepare relevant information, relevant phishing messages. People fall for it. Even security experts fall for those. I have all kinds of stories to share from my colleagues who fell for SMS messages, for example. An SMS at 6 a.m. asking you to log in because your email will be shut down. At 6 a.m., people enter their credentials more frequently than at 3 p.m. So drills and exercises. That's the answer to your question. Okay. Now, I want to show a video of how to protect a computer. So be it a Mac, or Windows or Linux, whichever you use. Usually for Windows, there are 282 security settings, 25 of them are critical, 238 have medium priority. And I'll just play this little video here, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through security settings available on Windows, but not turned on by default. It doesn't cost money to turn them on. It just takes work. And for legal tech startups, they often, very often, they ignore protecting the computers of their developers, of their QAs, and of their system administrators in this way that I just showed on your screen. If your developer's computer gets compromised, the hacker can insert a backdoor into your product and all of your clients get compromised just because one developer didn't protect their computer. And the same applies to QA, quality assurance people. The same applies to system administrators who administer your networks. Regardless, a law firm, legal tech startup, doesn't make a difference. All it takes to prevent a huge breach is to protect one computer and then copy the protection settings from this computer and apply them to all the other computers in your network. All it takes. It doesn't take buying, like, there are all kinds of security vendors out there selling all kinds of security solutions for a lot of money. I wouldn't say they are as effective as what I showed you. Applying proper security settings on your computer, applying proper security settings to your smartphone, to your cloud environment, to Office 365. It's all about security architecture. Like, I don't have much time to go into details, but security architecture means you apply security settings everywhere, and then you are protected. It's not about buying security solutions or magic pills. Now, protecting Google Apps, Office 365, you have to turn on two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication, I'll show you the best tool to protect your accounts. It's this USB key. It's YubiKey. It's right on your screen. YubiKey. It doesn't say YubiKey on this key. But YubiKey is a device that costs $50. And if you protect your account, for example, your Office 365 or your Google account with a YubiKey, then it's pretty damn impossible for a hacker to get into your account. And in many cases, if your Office 365 account is the same as your Windows account, and a hacker getting access to your Office 365 can gain access to your, if they're linked with the same credentials to your document management system, they can gain access to all kinds of accounting systems. I mean, it goes on and on. They drill down and they drill down into your network just by compromising one credential. If you protect your credential with a YubiKey costing $50, magic happens, and suddenly hackers have to spend 1,000 times more effort to get into your account. So highly recommend, buy those devices, how to configure them, buy two of them, configure two of them, because if you lose one, you have a backup. If you just configure one and you lose it, you might lock yourself out of your account. And use Google Authenticator on your phone. It's an app. Or use Microsoft Authenticator on your phone. I mean, that's the second best thing. If you want to save money on the YubiKey, get a free solution and use Google Authenticator as two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is a must. It's not even a good to have, it's a must. For admin access to your development environment, if you're a legal tech company, your development environment administration should be impossible without two-factor authentication. It should be absolutely impossible to log into your most critical servers without a second factor, just using a password. Forget about using passwords on critical systems. That should be impossible to log in. Two-factor authentication, if I could repeat it 1,000 times, I know you could be bored, but you'd be surprised. People enable two-factor authentication on their email, they forget to enable it on their document management system, on their filing system, on all kinds of systems, they have just a password. I am never tired of repeating this. Enable two-factor authentication. Now, we are almost out of time. I really want to talk about secure software development and application security programs. If you're a legal tech company, secure software development is something that you have to work on. And when it comes to secure software development, the most critical part of secure software development is not buying a tool, it's not buying a service, it's training your developers, provide them training on secure software development. Your system architects and your leads who manage your developers, they must have secure software development training. They must have some security training, because otherwise the product you're creating is not going to be secure. Point. It's not going to be secure. And then you have all kinds of processes to follow. You have to have security testing processes for testing the source code, the applications, the web server, the database server, the file storage server. All of them need to be tested for security. There is static testing for source code, dynamic testing for the application itself. I mean, these are testing practices that need to be built in your development operations, your DevOps. Your DevOps need to become SecDevOps or DevSecOps, different schools of thought. So development security operations is better than just development operations. And your application security program should have the practices of auditing, testing. There are all kinds of security controls. I'm not going to go into details, but I just want to show you that security doesn't come from oh, sorry, I pressed the button on my phone a few times. So
the chat, Alexander, there's a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Tommaso is asking, is there a tool to check if an attachment or link is safe?
Yes, there is an amazing tool, but you have to be extremely careful with it. It's called VirusTotal. Now, VirusTotal is an amazing tool. If you upload any file to it, it will search 60 antiviruses for this file. Now, if you upload a confidential document to VirusTotal by mistake, you might get into a ton of trouble, because VirusTotal can be accessed by thousands of people. The files submitted there are accessed by thousands of people. So be extremely careful. And only submit files to VirusTotal that you are 99% sure that are not confidential. You can check links on VirusTotal. Like you can check files as well. If you receive a link, paste the link into VirusTotal. That is safe. That is absolutely safe. Check the URL. You check 60 antiviruses, 60 different vendors. With files, be extremely careful. Because if you submit a confidential file, it's leaked and you become the hacker. You hack yourself, you hack your client by submitting their confidential data there. So use your antivirus that is in your machine, and use zero patch. I mentioned in a slide earlier to use zero patch. Let me find where it was. Anyway, where was it? Anyway, use zero patch, because zero patch, I don't know my own slides. It's here. It's here.
Okay.
Yeah, zero patch, it's free. So zero patch prevents exploits in documents. So when you receive a document with an exploit, it's highly likely that if your antivirus doesn't protect you, which is antivirus, I wouldn't trust your antivirus. Bypassing an antivirus takes 5 minutes by a teenager. Run some tools on a virus, it becomes undetectable for an antivirus. So don't trust your antivirus. Install zero patch. And if you're still suspicious, make sure that your IT admin gets training on checking files if they are malicious or not. So priority number 1, scan it with your antivirus. Priority number 2, make sure your IT admin gets training on checking files if they're malicious or not. And only if you are sure that the file you received is not confidential, if you're sure, then upload it to VirusTotal. That's the best answer I can give.
Alexander, that's a very interesting angle you started to mention with the security development of Legaltech, among others. So probably it's the same issue as with all software, but since lawyers are using more and more legal technology, and of course, if I'm a lawyer, I'm implementing a document management system or some contract review system and so on. I don't know how the system get developed and what procedures and development programs they have. Is there any question I could ask the vendor how the product got developed, or is there some kind of certification? Say they used a management or development program that is certified by some authority.
Yeah.
Is there something
in general,
okay?
I got your question. In general, there should be a checklist, a security checklist that you ask every vendor before you buy their product, be it a document management system, a filing system, a system to optimize your email because it has AI and it's the most modern legal tech software on the market. You always ask them if they provide two-factor authentication, or how do they protect access to the document management system? Is it possible for someone to log into the document management system just by using a username and a password? If it's possible, and there is no other way to protect that, if they don't provide two-factor authentication options, drop it. Doesn't matter if it's laying golden eggs for you. Drop it, because if it's insecure, it might cripple your business. It might make your company go down forever. If all the confidential files of your clients get leaked on the internet and become available for everyone to download for free, God forbid that happens,
yeah,
you will be very sorry you didn't find a document management system that supported two-factor authentication. Ideally, your document management system should only receive the login after it's approved by your company's directory. Now, this is a technical term for IT admins, but it should support single sign-on, and it should only allow login from a trusted device after a trusted authentication process, which is not just a username and password.
Okay. Do we have any other questions in the chat or?
Yes, I have a question. Can I ask it?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank
Pablo.
you. Hi. First of all, greetings from Ecuador in South America. It's a pleasure being here, enjoying this webinar. I have a practical question. I'm still a law student, and I'm concerned a little bit about how can we go through this path of cybersecurity. Of course, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to find information, the useful information, and to build your education in this field. I've already started with Harvard, with the course in Harvard, which is CS50 for lawyers.
CS50 is amazing. CS50 is amazing, yeah.
But I would like to know practical other steps in order to learn more about these topics, and of course that are a major issue right now.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
atlansecurity.com. Since we are almost at the end, I'm sharing my book. This book, since I can't send you the paper format over the screen, the best thing I can do is give you a copy. So take this copy. In PDF format, it's 170 pages. In printed, it's 220. So it's 170 pages of practical advice. I mean, I've defended nuclear power plants. I've defended banks. I've defended the government organizations. All of this experience is in this book. So if you read it, you get the best start you can get as a student and as a lawyer, as a CEO, as anyone, because it is actually, you can change the title. You can change it from protecting law firms, change the title, say protecting banks, and it will still be relevant. It's still the same. Cyber attacks are not different for law firms than they are for banks. They use the same, hackers use the same techniques, the same technologies, the same methods to hack a government, to hack a mom and pop's shop, to hack a law firm, it's more or less the same. So the defense measures that I mentioned today, having some security on your browser, like the uBlock Origin extension, having the zero patch installed, running hardened tools on your machine. All of those are immediately applicable, and most people they never even enable two-factor authentication on their accounts. So two-factor authentication is a must. So enable it today. Enable it on your Facebook, on your Gmail, on your Amazon. Amazon supports two-factor authentication. If a hacker gains access to your Amazon, they can ruin your life very easily. There are all kinds of stories online about that. So protect all of your accounts with two-factor authentication. And also, I mean, don't underestimate the advice I gave you for the password manager. It's just a must. Having a password manager, using it, changing all your passwords, putting all of your accounts with different passwords into a password manager, and then you don't have to care about passwords anymore. You have them in the password manager, and the password manager takes care of the password complexity. It's different for every account automatically. So yeah, get my book and read it. That's the best advice I can give you.
I just shared the link in the chat so everybody can access it.
All right.
Thank you.
And
Thanks
there's another question from Adam. Adam, do you want to unmute your phone and ask the question yourself? We can't.
Go ahead, Adam.
We can't hear you yet. No, we can't hear you yet. I will ask the question, I will read it. So Adam asked two questions. Why are the defaults to Windows so horrible? And the second question is, why is it required for a solo practitioner to go through and change 25 different settings? I know it's probably a question for Microsoft, but do you have an opinion?
Can you all hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, a very good question. Thank you, Adam. Yes. I will try to answer with several different steps. I'll start with why does a solo practitioner have to go through all this pain to protect their machine. Now, I have a few clients who are solo practitioners, but they handle nuclear power plants. So they were forced to secure their computers in all these ways. Most solo practitioners will be fine. You'll be fine by starting with two-factor authentication. Start with that. Start with enabling two-factor authentication everywhere. Do that. Change all your passwords and put them in a password manager. That's not difficult as well. Or if it's too much work, change your most critical password just for Google Apps and Office 365. Make sure that the backup accounts, the backup email accounts, which are different, are also protected. That's also very critical to know. And about protecting your Windows machine, run hardened tools, free. You don't have to go through the 250 settings. There are 25 which are critical, yes. You can go through them. Why they're not enabled by default? Because they need to be tested. Because if you enable, some of them break software. Like you apply them one by one and see if all of your software still works. They're not turned on by default because there are consequences. You increase security, your usability falls. Now I have passed university courses for usable security. Most security experts haven't specialized in usable security, and they enable settings which will make your life hell. So how to say it? You have to test it. You have to test all those settings before you apply them. That's why they are not enabled by default. And leave this last. Leave this Windows settings, which I'm showing now on the screen. Leave them as your last most difficult task if you have to. Do everything else first.
I have a question. We're basically a law firm that began to function as an online service provider. So we have a combination of both on-site and cloud services. Of course, I already mentioned in the chat, I'm probably going to have a follow-up call with you because I have too many questions. But from now, the first most important question is the following. We do have an on-site server, which is too valuable, too pricey to just dump it. Is there a possibility of using cloud-based tools to preserve the on-site server to make it as secure as AWS or Azure, for example? Can we merge it into their infrastructure, for example?
If it's on-site, you will never make it as secure as on a cloud provider because you don't have their engineering power. You don't have their artificial intelligence, all like Azure itself and Office 365. The artificial intelligence there is beyond comprehension. Petabytes of storage, petabytes of memory, thousands of servers, computers, processors. It's not comparable. That's anything you can build yourself. So first, make sure to understand it will never be as secure.
Okay,
now,
that's clear.
Put it behind Cloudflare.
Yeah.
Cloudflare has a web application firewall on the paid account. I think it has it on the free account as well, but it's very neutered. On the paid account, the web application firewall on Cloudflare is very good. It's a very good solution for its money. Now, keep in mind, bypassing web application firewalls is possible. I've been to a hackers conference. I was a speaker to many hacker conferences, but that's beyond the topic. But on one of those hacker conferences, there is a game where you have to drink a shot and try to hack a web application firewall. Drink a shot. If it catches you, drink another shot. There are people who drank 30 shots, and in the end, after 30 shots of alcohol, bypassed the web application firewall. So web application firewalls defend you from automated attacks. They will not defend you from a capable hacker. The only way to defend your on-site server is to go first through secure software development process. Then you go on this cloud security slide. You go through several procedures to make sure that your build is secure. You protect your database, you protect your application. If you have APIs, you protect the APIs, you enable API security monitoring. I mean, it's a process. You cannot buy this. It's a process to get there. It's like with health. You cannot become healthy by buying the healthy book or buying the healthy system. It's impossible. Yeah,
you have to exercise.
Yeah, there are companies selling solutions for anything. If you say, I need API security, there will be 100 vendors selling API security products. No, don't go there. First, protect your APIs properly from the source code, enable API monitoring, build security architecture first, and if you have money to spare, buy a solution. But buying a solution usually doesn't make you secure. If you haven't done the steps first, it's just compliance checkmark. Yeah, we have a web application firewall. Yeah, we protect APIs. Compliance is there. Checked. You won't be bothered by the government. But hackers don't care if you're compliant. Hackers care, have you done the work first? That's what they care. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to bail out. I'm sorry, I have another call now. But thank you very much. I'll contact you if possible to arrange another call one-on-one, and then we can probably discuss things in more detail. It's okay with you? Great. Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Holger. I have to run. I'm already late. And guys, I hope I see you soon live, not just through Zoom.
Okay.
Bye.
Perfect. Any other questions?
There is another question by Tommaso.
Okay. Go ahead.
And
yeah.
Tommaso, do you want to unmute your microphone and ask a question, or should I read it?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, ELTA, for this amazing webinar, and thank you, Alexander, for sharing your expertise. I am a law practitioner, and solo legal tech entrepreneur myself, I was wondering if you ever experienced an actual implementation of the Nist cybersecurity framework. I've been experiencing with it a little bit, and I think it could be, especially the latest version, which entangles some
853? Do you mean 853?
Yeah, the one which has some GDPR controls within it.
So you mentioned Nist. I will also mention GDPR and ISO 27001. Now, in Europe, most firms have to comply with ISO 27001. Nist is an American standard, and GDPR is a compliance standard. Now, personally, I prefer Nist because Nist is practical. For all the clients that I work with Nist because Nist is practical. I don't care about compliance. My job is not compliance. My job is protecting against hacking attacks. So defense. And my job is to make defense effective. If defense is to be effective, I follow Nist standards. If there is compliance, I tell the potential client, thank you very much, but please go to a compliance specialist. That's not my job. So yeah, Nist is something that I apply everywhere for every one of my clients. I love Nist. I love the controls in Nist. The controls are very practical. They are based on US defense, military defense specialists created Nist. So for everyone on the call, if you have a choice between ISO 27001 for compliance, or if you have a choice, if you have freedom of choice what to apply Nist guidelines.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Your question, do you have a more detailed question about Nist, something specific?
Well, actually, I was wondering, how do you actually implement it within a firm, within a small, medium enterprise? Should you take up a cybersecurity expert in order for have it deployed, all the controls within the Nist framework?
Usually, I'm the cybersecurity expert. I work with the IT personnel of the client. And usually, I do an assessment first, an audit against Nist guidelines, of course. And I have my own security assessment, which is based on Nist, actually. So first I check what is not compliant with Nist. Then with the client, we do a business justification, which settings to apply, because you have a few hundred settings. If you apply them, you have to spend $1 million to apply all of them for a large company. So you have to decide which are the ones of the hundreds of settings there, hundreds of controls, not settings, because some controls require separate projects to be enabled. So you have to decide how much money do you have to spend on security, how much of those money you can spend on Nist compliance, and then which are the controls which are most likely to be utilized by a hacker today. So you find that those critical controls that you are currently vulnerable, that can be utilized by a hacker, fix them first. That's what I can recommend. Maybe out of a few hundred in Nist, maybe you apply 5 and you're much better off than by applying none. You'll still be much better. I mean, apply the ones that are applicable to you.
Okay,
Thank
I
you
would
very
say
much.
we make a cut here. You all see the contact details of Alexander. So if you wake up tomorrow and realize you have been hacked, give him a call or reach out via LinkedIn and download the book, read the book. That's as close as you can get to much more cybersecurity. So thank you all. Or here you have to.
Yeah, just my name. Here's my name because my name is hard to spell. It's a Russian name, but I have to live with it.
It's easy.
So,
it's very easy. Well, okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for staying until the end. Get my book. Thank you, ELTA, for providing this opportunity to share. And yeah,
yeah,
stay healthy, everyone.
thank you all for joining us, and hope to see you soon. Thank you, Julia, for technical support and organizing everything. And thank you, Alexander, for taking the time to go in so much detail. I guess everybody appreciates it very well. I have to say, in my remembrance, that's the webinar with the most questions after it.
Definitely. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Yes. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.